Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we are continuing our ongoing coverage of the civil war taking place inside the former state of Ethiopia. Now, as I call it, a civil war, I believe it is starting to become more and more a case where you have external actors intervening and continue to intervene and have been intervening in this protracted civil war that is taking place. So, what's new today? Reports are coming in as we speak over the last 24 hours of increased Eritrean military activity along the northern border with the Tigray region. As we know, back in 2020, November 2020, the joint forces of the Abiy loyalist and the Eritrean army invaded the Tigray region. That's this area here, and then were successfully evicted from the Tigray region after the full mobilization of the Tigrayan defense forces were able to militarily defeat those forces. Now, fast forward today, we have seen the Tigrayan army attempt thus far to try and break the Anaconda strategy that has been put into place around the Tigray region, that is denying Tigray the access of food and other essentials of life. And this has caused the Tigrayan defense forces to go on a renewed offensive campaign to break said siege. Now, early reports within the last several days had the Tigrayan defense forces proceeding south, taking control of Kobo, Kobo Robit, and then are now surrounding Woldia as we speak. And we do know that the two ENDF or Abiy loyalist divisions that were based within the vicinity of Kobo and west of Kobo and east of Kobo near the Zobel mountain range, it's this area here, were effectively destroyed. We do know that several field-grade officers have been taken prisoner, and we also have reports of an Abiy loyalist general as well that has been taken a prisoner in the military defeats that took place of the Abiy loyalist formations in and around Kobo. Right now, it is estimated that the Tigrayan defense forces have taken anywhere between 2,000 and 6,000 ENDF Abiy loyalist prisoners of war in the new campaign. That's in addition to the 10,000 ENDF Abiy loyalist personnel and untold numbers of Eritrean army members that were taken prisoner in the previous operations in Tigray and externally outside of Tigray as well. Now, what is new as happening today? Well, there are reports that the Eritrean army has once again entered or is trying to enter the Tigray region, especially in the vicinity of Shiraro. This is more of a flat area and will be more conducive for the more mechanized formations of both the Abiy loyalist forces, but mainly the Eritrean army units that may have in fact crossed the border with an eye on taking control of this town here, Shiraro. Now, again, it is fairly flat and sparse in this area. It's going to be very, very difficult for the Tigrayan defense forces to defend this area, given the amounts of heavy weaponry that the Eritrean army possesses, the tanks, the armored fighting vehicles, and the lack of anti-tank weapon systems that the TDF may lack at this point. Now, with that being said, we did see as the Eritrean army eventually moved into the more mountainous, rugged areas of the Tigray region, that is where the Tigrayan Defense Forces fell upon those forces and were able to effectively destroy company-sized and battalion-sized formations over the course of the conflict. And what I'm doing right now is just trying to show you the rugged nature of the central Tigray region. And as we go closer to the central area of Tigray, the Tenbian region, this is where the ENDF, the Abiy loyalist forces, really kind of met their fate. The Eritrean army met its fate in attempting to fight the Tigrayan Defense Forces on its own turf in these very, very heavily rugged mountainous areas of the central Tigray Tenbian region. So are we going to see a case where we could see the northern Tigrayan cities occupied by the Eritrean army once again? I would hit the pause button there, and I would say not so fast. In the early stages of the initial November of 2020 campaign, when the Eritrean army and the joint forces of the Abiy loyalist army entered the Tigray region, the Tigray Defense Forces had not fully mobilized. There were an estimated of probably just under 9,000 mobilized Tigrayan Defense Forces at the time the ENDF and the Eritrean army entered the Tigray region. Right now, as we speak, it is estimated that the Tigrayan army could be fully mobilized and have 300,000 personnel in the field as we speak. I believe that number is more like probably 200,000, but again, that is definitely much, much more than the original 9,000 we saw deployed at the onset of hostilities in November of 2020. Furthermore, I don't think it would be outside the realm of possibility that we would see the Tigrayan Defense Forces fight this time inside of some of the cities. Especially, we may even see house-to-house and street-to-street fighting taking place in Shiraro. I don't believe, I could be wrong on this, that the Tigrayan Defense Forces would allow the Eritrean army just to roll into Shiraro and some of these other cities as they did before. I could be proven wrong on that, and it could be the same strategy if we do see a all-out offensive by the Eritrean army back into the Tigray region. But I have a hunch that, one, the ability of the Abiy loyalist forces in the south, the Amhara Regional Militia Forces, the ENDF, the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, also called the Abiy Loyalist Forces, are not the same combat force that entered the Tigray region back in November of 2020. That force has been extensively degraded and has suffered battlefield defeat after battlefield defeat, not only by the Tigrayan Defense Forces, but in the ongoing campaigns against the Oromo Liberation Army as well. So the effectiveness of that southern front by the Abiy loyalist forces are just not going to have the same capability as they did during the early stages of the campaign back in 2020. And as we know, they were eventually defeated in central Tigray. Now, the Eritrean army, on the other hand, that force may be in a bit better position to conduct offensive operations against the Tigray region, but at the same time, the TDF will be able to flex forces north in order to prevent that advance by the Eritrean army into some of those northern cities such as Shire, Aksum, Adwa, and then eventually, and then Adigrat, and then obviously the Eritrean army, if we do see this all-out invasion, would eventually look to occupy Mekelle. But right now, the Abiy loyalist forces are on their retreat in the south. They are putting up fights near cities such as east of Lalibela. They are also fighting the Tigrayan Defense Forces near Sokoto as well, and that's this area here and here. But closer to south of Kobo, where we saw the largest contingent of B loyalist formations based in this area were effectively destroyed by the Tigrayan Defense Forces near Kobo. And again, as we speak, the Tigrayan Defense Forces are in the process of encircling Woldia, much like they did in the previous campaign. Now the question is what does the force construct of the Tigrayan Defense Forces look like near Adigrat? What does it look like near Axum? And obviously right now it looks like the Eritrean army is trying to make advances where they feel the Tigrayan Defense Forces may be weakest, and at the same time the Eritrean army and whatever B loyalist forces have joined them from western Tigray feel that this area again is much flatter and is probably more safer for them to operate rather than operating in the mountainous areas of the Tigray region where they had suffered previous military defeats. So we'll see what happens. It may be an operation right now that we're seeing in terms of the Eritrean army and the B loyalist forces to try and cut off Tigray Defense Forces south near the Takazi River and prevent a Tigrayan Defense Force operation towards western Tigray. I just don't see the capability at present to successfully reinvade the Tigray region successfully. I think ultimately we would see the same outcome as before, and at the same time it's probably going to be much more difficult for those Eritrean forces to move into some of these northern cities I had talked about before, such as the mountainous areas near Shiraro and Adwa, Axum. Very difficult for the Eritrean army to move into these areas given the mobilization that has taken place within the Tigray region. I know there's a lot of talk right now of an all-out Eritrean invasion of Tigray with the intent on occupying those northern cities and then Mekelle again. I think it's going to be very difficult for the Eritrean army to do that. Compounding that, the ENDF, or the B loyalist forces, are being systematically beaten up in the south near Kobo. So it's just not the same environment that we saw during 2020. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. And that's kind of where we stand at the moment. We will continue to watch very closely what is happening and bring you more content as events warrant. Thanks again for joining us, and always have a good day.